Good day and welcome to another episode of the Inside Out Perspective. And yes,
What race are you running?
so the first thing in this interview which I noticed was the question relating to Taqiyya. Now Taqiyya, as we know, is the lying and deception which is allowed in Islam to promote the faith or to promote the cause of Allah. Now Muslims normally go and they say, oh no, this is only in a war scenario when they feel threatened. But if you have a look at what's happening with this new evidence coming out about the changing of the Quran, the diacritical markings, and the historical content of, even if Muhammad existed, it is a direct attack on the faith. And therefore Taqiyya is allowed. And this is what Yasir says about Taqiyya.
I'm speaking to a group that are not even academics, they're awam, right? And the point right now is to these people, many of them think Islam is out to kill us. They're demonizing the faith. The goal in this audience is not to convince them of the wisdom of the hudud. That's not the time and place to do that. The goal right now is to explain to them, look guys, your text, Leviticus, Deuteronomy also has issues that you understand, but you still believe in Christians, okay?
Notice two things in this answer which is given. Firstly, we as lay people are not academics, so therefore there's the undertone of we don't have any right to question. But this confirms the Quran, which clearly states that people may not question and should just follow. Secondly, which he goes and he refers to the biblical text, saying that there are problems with Deuteronomy and Leviticus, etc., etc., which is typical of the Islamic apologists, where instead of addressing the problem, they come up, which would I call the Islamic gymnastics, where let's divert the scenario to something else. But in that diversion, let's just ask the question. Wherever has the Christian or the Judaism faith burnt the original texts? In the mass of the evidence of the New Testament manuscripts, wherever has it come out that there have been changes, deletions, erasions, additions? So, can you understand that this Taqiyya, although he denies its practice, he confirms that they're actually doing it? What does he say next?
And again, I made a judgment call. You have full right, if you were to be put in that position, to make a different judgment call. I knew the context, I knew the city, I knew what's going on. I made a judgment call. This is not the battle to be fought right now for this audience. Now,
so what do you hear here? This is not a battle for this audience. In other words, this is only to be discussed with serious scholars. And I've always questioned this, and I made a note of this, and I wrote about this in my book, My Father Said, Discovering the Deception of Islam, which was released just over a year and a half ago on Amazon. And I had a look at this and I questioned this. Why is there this Islamic gymnastics where there is a question and the standard answer, and the standard answer, and it didn't matter which Muslim you spoke to, you got the fixed standard answers all the time. And what I realized was, it was the manner in which they taught. And it's simple parrot fashion. Here's the formula, here's the solution, and there's the problem. And that is what you say. Versus the Western view, where one is given the formula and you're taught how to apply it to a given problem. Notice the difference. The one is parrot fashion, just follow. The second one is, here's the formula, apply it to the problem. Learn and work through it. What does the Bible say about this? Work out your own salvation through your own pain and suffering. How does Yasir answer this? Let's see what he says next.
as for the issue itself, every single student of knowledge knows, who studies Ulum al-Quran, that the most difficult topics are ahruf al-qira'at, and the concept of ahruf and the reality of ahruf, and the relationship of the Uthmanic Mus'haf with the ahruf, and the preservation of the ahruf. Is it 1, is it 3, is it 7? And the relationship of the qira'at to the ahruf. This is a topic that When you're the beginning student of knowledge, you're like, what is all of this going on here? When you go a little bit more, you learn to simply memorize what your teachers say and regurgitate it out. And you don't fully comprehend. When you do a deep dive is when things get very, very awkward and difficult. And this isn't new. This is from the time of the Sahaba.
Notice his answer. He makes it very clear. This is not the average Joe in the street. This is on the scholarly level when people learn. They are confused about the diacritical markings. And then when you go a little bit deeper into it and you start studying Islam, what are you told to do? Just regurgitate what we're talking. Don't worry about the truth. Just regurgitate it, parrot fashion. When I put this theory to the test in my book, My Father Said, I got a lot of flack and criticism, especially from the point of view that I'm degrading the mindset of Muslims. But listen to what he says here. He says that it just needs to be regurgitated and taught. And this is from people learning Islam. This is not average Joe in the street like me and you. These are people learning Islam, Muslims who are going deep into their faith. And when the top scholars dive deep into it, what does he say? It becomes an awkward problem where they don't have the answers because it's too difficult.
The issue of ahruf and preservation and qira'at and relationships between them, these are very, very difficult issues. And the most advanced of our scholars, they're not quite fully certain how to solve all of the unanswered questions in there. Ibn al-Jazari, who without a doubt is the greatest scholar of qira'at for the last 1,000 years. Ibn al-Jazari famously writes, I have been thinking and pondering, I've been thinking and pondering about the issue of the ahruf and qira'at for over 35 years. Nathan with all the questions. My point being that this issue of ahruf and qira'at has troubled the ummah from the very beginning of time. It's nothing new.
Now, man, I just question this as a Christian, because if I'm asking God for an answer, I expect an answer. And if I hear nothing, the default is that it is no. So if you're sitting and you're looking for an answer, and like the top scholars going 35 years of asking this question, and your God, Allah, is unable to answer the confusion of the diacritical markings, surely you must assume that this is not the true faith of the true God of creation. And secondly, I want to point out, when I as a Christian dive deep into my faith, whether it is looking at the significant historical background of Passover, or just Jesus' teaching of the cursed fig tree, man, I come back out of looking at the source material there enriched and alive, knowing that there's a body of evidence that supports and confirms my belief in the death and resurrection of Jesus. And this comes from the true God of creation. So surely there's got to be a balance. And where does the balance fall flat? Because you see, this mindset of Islam, which it's going through at the moment, just regurgitate what we're told. Isn't this exactly the same which happened in the Dark Ages with Christianity? Have a look at it. You talk to a Muslim about just general things of violence on our faiths. And what do? But have a look at the Crusades and how Christians, under the banner of Jesus and Yahweh, killed millions of people. And yes, it's true. It is not a good period of history now. But why? Look at what the monks and the scholars of the time were doing. They were hiding the truth of the text away from the mass of the people. And isn't this exactly what Islam's doing? They're saying, and here Yasir says, don't. It's not for the average man in the street. It's not for public consumption. Just regurgitate what you taught and trust us. Now I'll ask you the simple question. If you wanting to buy a second-hand car and you get the approval that this is AA approved, that's number one, everything's hunky-dory, roses, all tests show that it's a top car, and you jump in it and it won't start, because it's missing the engine. Will you not feel deceived? Is this not deception? Is this not the Islamic lie, that it will not present the truth of its text to you? So which is the correct Quran? What is the race you running? Which of the 36 Qurans on the market today are you following?
And that every Quran in the world is the same. That's what you've been told. You have been told a lie.